Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Leadership Lessons with Cheri. And whoa, it is February 1st as I'm recording. And was I the only one, or did January feel like it was 67 days long? I am not even joking with you. Like, as I reflect back on the month, we had the new year, which was a super high, right? Super exciting. Then we had to go back to school. And, I'm working back at a school this year. Okay, it's not bad. I really do enjoy my job, but now I couldn't be home in my yoga pants every day, right? I had to put clothes on. I had to go do the thing and go head back to school. And then we went into the second week of January, second full week of January, where things got real busy at school. And then the weather started to get real yucky and it was gloomy and rainy and all of a sudden it turned cold and we went into the MLK weekend and boom, we had the snowstorm. And then we had to deal with all of the aftermath of that and rearranging schedules and missing out on some days at school. And then last week was our first week of school back. We went for the 2 days prior, but the first full week. And let me just tell you, everything was piled on top of everything from the week before. So it was like running 2 weeks in one week. Plus, in my evening time, I was trying to catch up on making sure I had all my tutoring students where they needed to be, catch up on my business, catch up on all of the other things. Plus, I had a very interesting two appointments, which I'll tell you about in a moment. But whoa, whoa, it has been wild, just wild. The great news is yesterday I woke up and I had the morning off for one of the appointments and it was sunny and it was starting to feel like Houston again. And so I put on my pinkalicious outfit, as what one of the students said to me, and I just enjoyed the day. And then today, just as amazing, even a little bit warmer, less windy. And I had a beautiful run this morning. And today is the TED Talk. So in a few little bits, I'll be changing my clothes, getting myself ready to head out the door for that. So lots of great things. I also wanted to share that I made a pretty big decision yesterday evening. I've been working through what is 2025 going to look like for me. I definitely will stay employed. I have decided that I am going to pursue school leader positions again. So principal, district administrator for the 25-26 school year here in the Houston area. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a little early to have positions start posting, but I'm starting to get my documents together and start thinking about which districts I want to pursue and those types of things. And then also I spent 2 days at appointments with the Texas Education Agency. Some amazing women that are in charge of continuing professional development for educators here in Texas and also overseeing all of the educator preparation programs. And so I made the decision that I am going to apply and become a state approved vendor for continuing education for educators, which is something I've always wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do it, I guess. And then also I am working on applying for, and it is a year-long, actually probably a 2-year process. It's a long process nonetheless to become an educator preparation program. And I will be working on alternative certification. I'm applying to support future teachers, those that have a college degree, but it's not in the world of education. So they're not certified yet as a teacher, but they want to teach. And I'm going to be focused on the grade band of early childhood through 6th grade because that's where my expertise lies. I'll add additional certification in the future, but this is where I want to begin. And I'm excited. I'm excited. So I'm working on the title or the name of my program. I am working on all of the logistics. So much is going into this. As a matter of fact, the deadline to apply is December 1st, based on what we learned these last couple of days. So you can tell it's a very intense process, 11 months. And even applying doesn't guarantee that you will be approved. And then once TEA, Texas Education Agency approves you, then it has to go to SBEC, which is the State Board of Educator Certification for approval, which then takes another up to 12 months. So that's where that 2-year window comes in. But yeah, my heart has been calling me for this. And as I always say, if it's something aligned with my value, it's my influence, my purpose, then it's definitely something for me. So exciting news, very exciting news. I have that all mapped out and ready to go. And it makes me really think about this week's episode, as I shared last week. Leadership is hard, right? And we know that every job is hard. Um, every job is hard. It doesn't matter what kind of leader you are, what field you're in, being an employee, being a leader. But I think when you're a leader, the responsibility becomes so much different that it becomes your whole life. You can't be a leader 9 to 5 and then go home and just let everything go. You might be able to do that as a manager. You might be able to do that as an employee, depending upon your field. But when you're a leader, you can't. And so I think it's so important that we remember so many things that keep us going and help us be the best leader we can be. Those things are skill set. We definitely need that. We definitely need to think about our soft skills, empathy, and those types of things, acceptance and vulnerability, and being a good communicator, and all of those things. But we also need to remember we have to be able to show up as our best self. And if we can't show up as our best self, we're going to get overwhelmed and stressed. We're going to feel burdened by the demands, and we're going to struggle with the expectations. And when we do that, we'll quit if we don't know what's keeping us going. And if we don't have this plan for success, we aren't able to manage our day, manage our life, manage our things. And if we don't take care of ourselves. And you heard me say last week that that's exactly the premise of my TED Talk today. And so I'm taking that and I'm adjusting it to work with leaders as we are on this journey to become the best leader that we can be. So this week is the first episode in this series of actually talking about the strategies that I think are important to be able to do that. And this one is keeping your why as your driving force. So let's get started. I have shared this before so many times that I knew I wanted to be a teacher when I was a young child. And at the time, I wanted to be a PE teacher. My family, my dad's side of the family anyway, very athletic. My great-grandfather was a skier, went to the Olympic trials. My grandfather was a swimmer, went to the Olympic trials. My dad, my uncle were wrestlers. I'm from the north, so wrestling is a big thing. They went to state competitions in high school. My uncle actually started college. I'm not sure if he actually graduated, but he never got his teaching degree. And he wanted to be a PE teacher. And he always coached and always did the things. So as a young child, sports and exercise was always very important for me, but also have this very unique combination in my family. My mom was the exact opposite of my dad. She was heavier. She was very sedentary. Her family, they didn't have that kind of drive, that kind of capability. They didn't have the motivation to even want to be healthy. And so they experienced a lot of ups and downs with their health, mental health and physical health. And my mom actually dealt with a lot of body shaming types of things. And I was a young child. She was a young mother. She was 17 when I was born. So at 6, she was only 23. And 23-year-olds, I mean, look, think about this in the world. And I love you all, 23-year-olds, if you're listening, but we're so impressionable still at that age. And she was as well. And I remember she would have us exercising with her. My sister is 3 years younger than me. So my sister was 3 years old. And we're doing these Jane Fonda workouts and all of these things back in the day. But I remember hearing her all the time talk about, I can't eat because I'll gain weight. And then a day later, she was eating everything in sight because she had restricted herself so much. My sister has a lot of the same tendencies. I love my sister and I'm trying to help coach her through this, but she's dealing with the same types of things. And even over the years, and this is not a big secret, we don't talk about it a lot, but my daughter I know would be okay with me saying she's gone through a few things too. And so I knew I wanted to be a PE teacher. However, my journey changed a little bit. I still became a teacher because that was my calling, but I haven't ever taught PE. Maybe one day, but at this point, I haven't ever taught PE. And I am currently, doing great where I'm at, and I'm in school leadership. But it was that transition into school leadership I never thought I was going to do. I truly believe that once I took on my first teaching position, I might change around subjects or grades or different things, but it took somebody pushing me out of my comfort zone for me to actually realize that I was supposed to be a leader. I was supposed to be in that position. So I took on my first principalship and it was really, really hard. Now, the roles leading up, they were hard too. One year in particular was extremely difficult as an assistant principal. Being a specialist, that wasn't too hard. Being a district coordinator wasn't too hard. My first year as an assistant principal wasn't too hard. But that second year, and I actually was officially the assistant principal all year, but started to move into the principal position midway through. It was hard. It was really hard. And my first year as a principal was really hard. And even over the years that I sat in the principal seat, there were years that were pretty good. Things were running smoothly. I think we were comfortable, but then something would happen inevitably, like it always does, right? And we'd have to pivot or make adjustments, and then that would become hard again. And when I think back to what kept me going, because I was a principal, y'all, for a long time, 16 years. And I'm actually considering going back into it. So it could be 17, it could be 18. I'm not sure where the path is going, right? With that and the timelines, with everything with this other endeavor. But I will say, during the hard times, even though I wondered if I should be quitting, I kept going because I had a drive, because I had a North Star. And that was my why. I had a purpose for doing it. Now, I've known a lot of principals over the years. You can't be in this role and not have colleagues and networks and connections, right? And I've heard people say, I did this because, and it's a very compelling why. Somebody influenced them, somebody pushed them, an incident happened that made them know that this is what they wanted to do, et cetera, et cetera. But I've also heard people say, I want to do this because it's more money. I want to do this because I have power. Literally, I've heard people say that. I want to do this because my best friend is doing this. I want to do this because it's the next step, and I guess it's just what I'm supposed to do. And I have to be honest, I've seen those people go on and do secure positions as they wanted, but not have the impact that the people who had this compelling why, this calling, this reason, this North Star. And I've also seen some of those people not even make it because the why wasn't big enough. It wasn't deep enough. It wasn't personal enough. And leadership is hard, as we said. Now, how do you figure out your why? We're all going to be a little bit different. But I think that, and this can be for any field, you have to step back and you have to ask yourself the question, what made me want to take this first step? And hey, if it's for more money, More power to you. That is amazing. I mean, the money worked for me. I'm not going to lie. My ex-husband didn't always work. And then after the divorce, I'm a single and a single income, and, pulling in six figures as a female, that's pretty good. And I needed it, right? To be able to continue to enjoy my lifestyle. So I'm not saying that wanting something because it's more income is a bad thing. But I will say for myself, the challenges that I encountered, the money wouldn't have been enough to keep me going. Because clearly I ended up pivoting and leaving that income, leaving that structured pay, leaving that security to try something different because my why changed. And we're humans, right? So you have to ask yourself that very first question: why did I decide to make this first step? And once you get that figured out, then you have to say, and why am I continuing to put myself out there as a leader? Because as the leader, your name is on the bottom line. Because as the leader, you're responsible for a lot of people and their people, right? I always say this: the best leaders know that they are influencing not just their employees, but their employees' families, which then amounts to influencing their communities and their employees' communities, right? Because if people are working or not working and being successful or not, it's going to have an impact on your community. We also know that leadership requires a lot of resiliency. There's going to be times that people are not going to agree with you, especially if you're doing it right. People are going to judge you. There are times that people are going to be ugly. My sister and I were talking last night on the phone, and we were talking about how I'm in my membership course, I'm working on this month a book, 10 de-escalation strategies for conflict management. And we've been talking about conflict management all month in January. And as we were talking, I said, this book is so powerful because we've been talking about how do you get people to sit down and compromise and da 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 da. But we didn't talk about what happens when the person that is having the conflict or causing the conflict or is within conflict of themselves goes totally off the deep end. And you're the leader and you got to figure that out. You got to de-escalate and you've got to make sure everybody else stays safe. So many things are going to come at you. And you can't let them see you cry, especially ladies out there listening. Do not ever let them see you cry, because then you become too emotional and da 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 da. But also, more than just that, I'm sure you all stepped into this, or many of you stepped into this because you wanted to empower people, because you want to have an impact on the field that you're in, because you wanted to do something big. And so you have to go back and you have to re-examine that North Star, that driving force, so that you can keep going, especially in those hard seasons. As I said, I've had years that have gone real smooth and years that have been very challenging. And it's the challenges that, number one, make us better, but it's also the challenges where we have to have that compelling why for ourselves, that deep desire to want to make this happen, or we'll end up leaving. Now, I'll leave on this note because I see it all the time. There are a lot of people out there that move into positions of leadership and then they're not happy. And I have to say to those of you who might be listening that you might be in that place right now, I think there are two options for you, because you have to build a life that you love. And nobody wants to be miserable in their position so much that it's starting to affect the work that you're doing. Most leaders I see that start to micromanage and start to treat their employees badly or their clients and customers poorly, it's because there's something else going on within the leader, right? So I think you have two options. You have to either sit down and figure this why out, or you have to ask yourself, is this really what I wanted to begin with? And be cautious about what you're putting out there on social media. Even when you're putting out anonymous member, people are going to figure it out at some point, right? Especially those of you close enough to you, if they're in your same Facebook groups, etc. But more than that, it just kind of affects the entire community, giving it a bad taste and a bad look. And, if it's not right for you, that's great. But if it's not right for you, it doesn't mean that it's not right for somebody else. All right. So that's everything I have for this week. This one is a short one. I'm going to keep them short in this series. Plus, I got to get dressed. I got to go downtown and do my TED Talk. So wish me luck and hang in there, y'all. You can do this. We're going to get you to become the leader you were definitely meant to be. And not just that, but nobody sets out on this just to be average. If you really, really, truly believe you are a leader, let's make you amazing. So if you need any support and anything, I'm absolutely here to help. My membership is amazing, $600 a year, which is very, very affordable. I do one-on-one mentoring, which is also at a very reasonable price, and have a few other services as well. So reach out. I'll put a few links in the notes so that you can get in touch with me. Have a great week, y'all. And I'll see you next week, right back here on Leadership Lessons with Cheri.